video on the different ways you can set up Microsoft Office in MLA format. Now, MLA format is the standard formatting style for most English classes here at Lamar State College Orange. That would also hold true at most other institutions, including four-year institutions. So it's very important that you learn how to use this format. If you are in a composition class, you will most likely have purchased this textbook. It's called Writing Matters. You want to have the Lamar State College Orange version of this. If you are in a literature class, you should have already purchased an edition of this textbook for your composition classes. If you have not, there are still other resources available for you, and I will talk about those in future tutorials and lessons if I have not already done so in your orientation module. Now, in this textbook, there's tons of resources on how exactly to do this, just in case you forget or this video is not accessible in the future. So, in this section, it's usually an orange or yellowish or pinkish section. It's orange in this edition. There is a model paper actually in the second edition of the textbook on page, I'm turning to it now as I speak, page 337, and you can see the model paper there. But I'm also going to show you how to do it in this video. The moral of that is that there are tons of resources available to you. This textbook is required. It's only one, but there are other resources that I can show you as well. For example, there is a great website called OWL at Purdue. I've got that pulled up right now. You see it here. They have an MLA 2009 style guide that has a model paper, video tutorials, all of those elements for you. So again, there's no excuse for not having your paper formatted correctly. And just to make sure that you understand how to do this, I'm going to actually have you do this after the video as an assignment where you introduce yourself to me in a professional 1 to 2 paragraph introduction. So you'll get a chance to walk through all this and it'll become part of your grade. Okay, so how do we do it? Well, one of the things you'll notice often in Microsoft Office, mine I've already set up. As you see here, I just opened it. I've already set it up in the basic format. That is, I have a standard font. You can see my cursor over here on the left side of the page. It probably looks like I'm looking at the opposite side in the video, but you can see the cursor kind of bouncing around here. Over here in font, I have a standard font. I just highlighted it and I've set it to 12 point. Now, in order to change that, because when you first open Microsoft Office, it's going to be in a completely different font and it's going to be like 11 point or something. You click that little box I just clicked and you get a box that looks like this. And you can go in and you can type in Times New Roman or Garamond and you can find the number and you highlight those things. Now, if you're working on your home computer, a computer at home, you should be able to click this little button that I have the cursor arrow over saying set as default. Once you've done that, you don't have to change anything again unless something happens and you have to reboot your computer and reinstall Microsoft Office. If you are working on a computer on campus per se or at a high school, you may have to redo this every single time. So it's good to keep in mind that that's a possibility. I'm just going to click OK because mine's already set. The next thing you need to do is you need to go to paragraph and make sure that your paragraph font, your paragraph spacing and all that is correct. So you look for indents and make sure they're 0. Alignment is at center for right now. You make sure that this right here, your paragraph spacing is 0, 0. Notice how both of these are 0. And line spacing is double. If yours says anything else, you need to change it. The same thing, you go in, you type the changes. You can click set as default if you're on a home computer. If you're on a school computer, hit OK and it'll reset. Now the next thing I like to do is you may notice when you pull yours up, your Microsoft Office up, you don't have these rulers here. If you want these rulers to appear, you click on view as I just did and you click the ruler button and that takes them away or puts them up. I think it's a good idea to have them up. It makes it a lot more useful when I'm doing hanging indents and works cited pages and that sort of thing. It also helps me find the area that is called the header. So your header goes in the corresponding area to this gray line here in your top margin. You come over here and you can double click and you can insert page number, top of page, page number 3, and then you type your last name. And then if you double click back in the regular body of the text, it shows up. Now the cool thing about this is by doing that, the page number automatically counts each time and your last name's there. You don't have to retype it every time. Now the next thing you need to do is you need to type your heading. Don't confuse the header and the heading. Some students often do that. This only appears on the first page of the paper. It should appear nowhere else. So if it's appearing on multiple pages, what you've done is accidentally typed the heading in the header. The heading only appears on page 1. So the heading goes like this. You have your name, your instructor's name and title. And it's important to find out what your instructor prefers. I've earned my PhD, so I prefer the title doctor, but I'm only an instructor, so I don't put professor with my name. If there is somebody who has tenure, they are called a professor. If somebody just has a graduate degree, a master's degree, then they are a Mr. or Miss. Always use Miss in this day and age just to be safe. Some women do not like to be called Mrs., so it's better to be safe rather than sorry. Next, you need to put your class number and your course manual number, whatever that might be, and the section number. So that varies depending on the class. For the purposes of this tutorial video, I'm going to make it my British Lit number. So Brit Lit 1 is 2322. And then it's going to be section 80 for an online class. Okay. Now yours might be different. You might be in a 1301, a 1302, and your section number might be different. You can find that information typically on your D2L page or on your schedule of classes. Then you want to put the date. Now, a lot of students screw this up. They might get it right the first time, but then they forget and they don't check, and they just put in automatically whatever Microsoft Office puts in. Now, it's very important that you get this date correct. It goes day, month, and year, whatever that might be. Okay. Then you want to space down again, and you want to title your paper. Now, one of the biggest mistakes students often make is they title their paper something along the lines of exemplification paper or compare and contrast paper, or I don't know, anything. And what they're doing is they're not thinking, they're not being creative. They title the paper something related to the assignment itself. Sometimes they'll title the paper something flippant and silly. And that's okay if it works for the context of the paper, but if it's something directed toward the assignment and the negative feelings you might have about the assignment, that's actually going to give your instructor a negative view on your writing from the very beginning. And that's the last thing you want to do. I mean, think about your title in the same way you think about a movie poster or the title of a movie. You don't want to title your movie romantic comedy or, like the comedy movies that came out a while ago called Scary Movie. That doesn't really get people to come watch the movie very well usually. You want to title something inventive, title your paper something inventive, something unique. So, I'm just messing around thinking about something, since this would be an introduction paper that I would be typing for this teacher, which is what your assignment's going to be. I would need to introduce something about me. So maybe I would pick a favorite lyric from a song, or a favorite favorite line from a poem, something along those lines. You know, like I'm looking right now at one of my favorite books, Northrop Frye's The Educated Imagination, and I'm going to find a line from here that I think works very well for me. That helps describe sort of my worldview and my personality. Uh, this is a good one. So, uh, again, this is an instance of being humorous, kind of poking fun at my own field and my own personality while still being respectful to the assignment. And that's really a balance you need to strike as a college student. You want to have a good impression with your teacher, and remember, your teacher, your instructor, won't have you sitting right there next to him or her to explain what you really mean by this title. The title is all they'll have to go on. So, being that this is an introductory paper and I'm a writer and a teacher of writing and literature and art, that sort of thing, I picked a title that introduces me very much and some of the issues I deal with. The fact that words are very important to me, thinking is very important to me, and that often those two things can create problems for me as a person. And then I would tab over and I would just start writing. For this first assignment, you're not having to do any in-text citation or works cited pages. You'll have to do that later. And there'll be another video when we get closer to that assignment. But for now, for this first assignment in the orientation module, I want you just to set something up like this with your name in the places where my name is for the student and the student's last name with the proper date of this assignment when it's due, and with an interesting title, and then 1 to 2 paragraphs that introduce you and answer the questions that I have listed in the prompt for the assignment sheet. So I'll show you in the orientation module for BritLit for this class. I have MLA formatted paper here. I just pulled this up. This is the orientation module for that course. And this is one of the last things students have to do in the orientation. And I have the instructions here. In the introduction, answer the following questions. What is your name? How confident are you with your ability to read and write? Why? Why are you taking British Literature 1? What do you already know about British literature before the 18th century? And then I say be sure to use correct grammar, formal diction, and treat this as introducing yourself to a possible employer. You know, if you didn't already talk about this in English 1301 and 1302, we are dealing with academic and professional discourse here. So that means although we can be humorous and silly at times, we need to do so in a way that's respectful and meaningful. So it's very important that your tone matches the sort of tone I'm speaking in right now to you. Uh, Now, writing and speech don't always match up in tone. That's obvious. Uh, but you want to be sure that you are making every attempt to sound as professional as possible without sounding inauthentic. You know, there's a way to sound professional without sounding inauthentic. And again, that's another one of those balances you'll learn to strike with the more writing that you do. Okay, so that's the end of this first tutorial video with me. Uh, I hope you're enjoying the orientation module for this course. I think there might be a few more videos depending on the course itself just to get you started, and then I will also be doing some lecture videos later in the semester, much like those ones by Mr. Tim Nance. I won't have a video beside me, but I'll have my computer screen behind me so you can kind of see my thoughts as I'm typing and some of the things I'm looking at. Ah, I didn't record it. Damn it. Okay, well, that's a sure